Good afternoon, everyone. I know we are just a little bit after noon, but I'm going to wait just a moment longer to um, wait for a few more folks to trickle in. All right. Well, it looks like we have a good group with us already this afternoon. Thank you for joining us for this month's Your Hour with APA Virginia, generously sponsored by our continuing friends and partners, the Berkeley Group. Today we are hosting Brea Hopkins of Montgomery County and Kearra Bright of Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority, and Kearra is also our Vice President of Inclusion of the Virginia chapter. So Brea and Kearra may be familiar faces, if not from the conference, just from the field, but you may also recognize this conference session title. So we're thrilled to have this presentation, Conquering Your Imposter Syndrome, in webinar format. It was such a hit at the conference, so we're glad to have them back. The CM number for this webinar is listed here on this slide, but I will also post it in the chat in just a moment. And the chat will remain open throughout the duration of the webinar. I'll also link in the chat our website page to our chapter, where you can find all things APA Virginia related, and any news regarding the webinar series. So we really do encourage questions. If you could submit your questions through the Q&A box, that will be super helpful. But there will be plenty of opportunities during this webinar to engage with our presenters. So I'm going to leave the chat box open. Feel free to put any open-ended responses in there. They're really looking for your engagement with this presentation. And of course, as always, the raise hand feature is permitted if you would prefer to ask your question out loud, or if you have anything to share with the group, happy to take you off mute so that you can engage with our presenters in that way. This webinar is being recorded. You were probably notified on your screen. I will also also post in the chat the link to our YouTube page where you can find all previously recorded webinars in the series, and I will likely have this recording up by the end of the week as well. I think that about covers it for logistical items. I will hand it over to Brea and Kearra now to present on this important topic. Thank you everyone for being with us, and feel free to direct message me if you have any logistical questions, of course. Thanks.
Great. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Like Gillian said, we do want to make sure that you are being interactive with us. So if you have anything, raise your hand so we can unmute you or send us something in the chat. When we held this presentation at the conference, it got a lot of discussion, so we're hoping for that now. Can you all see my slide? I'll look to Kearra and make sure she can see the presentation.
Yes.
All right, we're good to go. So we're going to talk about imposter syndrome. There's two of us today that are going to present. We're going to give you two different journeys. We're both at two different seasons of our career, so to speak, but we have both experienced the same challenge. And so we want to share our stories with you. It does require us to be very vulnerable. So the one thing I said before we started the last presentation we did is this is a safe space. So feel free to share with us. We're going to share with you. No judgment zone here. It's just like Planet Fitness. We're not getting into that. So it's all just us. we're going to start off with some introductions. I'm going to go through my story. There'll be a brief pause while we switch, so Kearra can have control over the PowerPoint, and we're going to go into her story, and then we're going to open it up for some discussion in our no judgment zone. And so we want you guys to share some stuff with us, because the main thing here is that we all learn from each other's stories and each other's experiences and what we've shared along the way.
And
Um,
if
Go
I may
ahead.
just
Sorry.
quickly hop in, just on that note, I'm also happy to clip out any shared stories during that
Yeah.
portion in that posting for YouTube, just to keep it a safe space. Just
Yeah.
alerting you to that now, folks.
Thank you. So I got an associate's degree in marketing in 1997, fell in love, decided I want to have kids, got married, waited a while to have kids though. Took a temporary job at Pulaski County. I was actually hired as a full-time file copy fax clerk. Like I said, that position come full time in 2000. And I really learned what zoning and planning was, more so zoning than planning. I had never been involved in that type of thing, didn't even know it existed. I started helping the zoning administrator at Pulaski County get caught up on some of her work because I was really bored filing, copying, and faxing. Then Montgomery County had a position open as a senior program assistant. It was a front desk position assisting the zoning administrator and the planners. I took that position in 2001. And through some encouragement of a mentor that I actually still have today, many of you may know him, Steve Sandy from Franklin County. He encouraged me to go back to school and get a planning degree. So whatever I was thinking, I decided that it was not only time to have my first child in February of 2004, but it was time to start a bachelor's degree at Radford University in 2004. So you'll notice it took 8 years. I did have a child. I was still working full time at Montgomery County, and I was also attending part time at Radford University, and eventually did get my bachelor's degree. It's a geography degree with concentration in planning. That road was not easy for multiple reasons, but it got even harder around the 2008, 2009 period when they decided to do away with the planning concentration program at Radford University. So then that led into a lot of independent studies, reading a lot of books, writing a lot of lengthy reports, and not your standard classroom setting. So that made it even more difficult. But there were a lot of late nights. My sleep schedule is still not the same. I still go to bed really late and get about 5 to 6 hours of sleep. My husband wishes it would return to normal. At this point, it's a lost cause. So while I was at Montgomery County, there were several different positions. In 2006, my position was upgraded to a planning and zoning technician. I did have my certified zoning administrator's certification through the Virginia Association of Zoning Officials by that point. And then in 2013, just a year after I graduated, I was promoted to development planner. My whole goal, and the reason that you see this highlighted in green, is my entire career up to 2022 was I want to be a planning and zoning administrator. That was my goal. I did not anticipate going beyond that level at all. Even when I was hired as planning and zoning administrator, I thought, phew, I finally made it. I'm at the peak of my career. I am done. And then in 2022, I became the director of planning and GIS services. Our planning director left the end of 2021, and I was named interim director. And even then, I was like, this is just temporary. I'm not going to do this full time. This is just until we get someone hired. But I really fell into that role and fell in love with it, and decided to apply, along with the encouragement of staff and threaten of some mass exodus. I decided to apply in 2022 and was awarded that position. So that's kind of how I got here. I am going to let Kearra introduce herself and tell you how she got where she's at, and then we'll go into my story.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. My name is Kearra Brea. I am currently the facilities planner for Northern Virginia at Metro. Lots of fun work, but I did not start there. So I was the little kid who was glued to the computer screen most of the time, playing SimCity at the time. City Skylines hadn't come out yet, but I was that little kid, and I just loved like building cities and truly wanted to see a difference. So after high school, I accepted to go to VCU and got my bachelor's in urban and regional studies. I absolutely loved it, loved the professors, loved all the teachers there. And so during that time also I minored in music, which is not at all related, but I still love music. Saxophone is my passion outside of the planning profession. And I also minored in real estate also because I wanted to kind of get a feel for that side of everything. Next, I got my master's in urban and regional planning because I'm an overachiever. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just go right into this right after undergrad during COVID. So that was definitely a time. And trying to do my master's off cycle was also quite the journey, but got through it with the help of a lot of support from friends and all of our professors. Next, while I was doing my master's, I started working at JRTC, which is where I fell in love with transportation planning specifically. I just loved the day-to-day things, loved going out to like look at different parts of Richmond, seeing all the bus stops, and that's the moment I knew I was like, I want to work in transit. For my career, so after I graduated, moved back up to be with my now fiance in Northern Virginia, and I started working at Parsons. Realized very quickly that I was not a fan of the private sector, and so I was like, I need to go to the public sector ASAP. So I was a contractor for Metro at the time through Parsons, and I found a job posting, and I was like, I don't know about this, but like, let's do it. Like, let's apply. Let's just see what happens. And I ended up getting the job as transit service planner one for Metro, where I got to work on a lot of different things, including severe weather, which is quite the challenge even now, up here in our system because we just get surprise snowstorms, But and then after that, in last year, at the very end of last year, I got promoted to Transit Service Planner 2, which is the facilities planner for Virginia, and still learning a lot. It's been quite the challenge so far, but it's a challenge that I'm glad that I was able to take, and I'm really grateful for the journey. All right, I will turn it back over to Bree.
Awesome. So imposter syndrome is all about what do you listen to? We all, and not in a weird way, we all have voices in our head. We tell ourselves things all the time. And so the question is, which one do you listen to? Which do you choose to believe at the moment? Because that's a lot about what imposter syndrome is. It's what you are believing about yourself. It's your self confidence, and it's how you feel and what you're listening to. Now that can be impacted by things that are on the outside world, and Kearra and I will both share our experiences with that and our struggles that we've had along the way. So I'm going to talk about my story, what started it all. Director of planning and GIS was never the goal. So I think that was one of the things that really triggered my imposter syndrome is it was not a place that I had ever seen myself being or working or doing. It wasn't a role that I had thought I would ever be in. So when looking back on it, with a therapist, I started to look at how did I get here? Like, why do I not have self-confidence? I've never been in this position before. And we started to talk about things. And I will tell you, I have very good parents, so I don't want you to think they were ever mean to me. They did not have ill intentions at all. But they did always push me really hard to be my best. And so it pulled out a perfectionism thing in me where I thought, I needed to be perfect. So for instance, one of the things I can remember from my childhood is I brought home a paper one day and that's when the scale, some of you may not remember because you're like way younger than I am, but like the grading scale was like a 90 to 100 was an A. So it was a 10-point grading scale. And I can remember I was so excited. I had a big test, I think it was math, and come home and I'm like, oh my gosh, look, I got a 92, I got an A. And they and my dad said, well, how long did you study? And I was fortunate enough, I was one of those kids, I didn't have to study a whole lot in grade school. It was a huge change when I went to college, but in grade school, I didn't have to study a whole lot. I could retain stuff that I'd learned in class. And so studying for tests wasn't necessarily something that I had to do. But he said, how long did you study? And so I answered, and it was probably like, I don't know, a half an hour, an hour. Well, if you'd have studied more, do you think it could have been 100? And if you let that just sit with you for a moment, he was pushing me to be my best. He wanted me to be the best I could be. And honestly, in hindsight, he was preparing me for the time in college when I would have to study for 3 hours, not one. But it was that if you had worked harder, or he was always one who said, and my mom says this to this day, I don't know why you have to do everything the hard way. And so, you hear all those like, why didn't you do it this way? Why did you choose to do it this way? You can't ever do things the easy way, or, so it leads into that thinking where you tell yourself, well, I wish I was, or I wish I could, or maybe I should have done this. Um, Now, those words come from a lot of different places, not just our parents. Mine just happens to be that example. And because of who I am, I took that and then I let myself and my brain run with it. So there's a lot I've learned, like, this was not something my parents necessarily did to me. It's something that I allowed them to instill in me, and then I took it and ran with it. It is something I've tried very hard not to do to my son. Um, Not because I don't want to encourage him, and I do encourage him, and I have said to him, your grade wouldn't have been that if you would have done this. But we also weren't talking about A's. We were talking about much, much lower grades. And, one of those things where, well, I mean, I did the work. Okay, well, why didn't you turn it in? And so that's more what my son's was. But my experience was very different. And so that all led to where I'm at today. Um, After I got out of college, after I got out of high school, after I settled into Montgomery County and started working, I was really growing into my comfort zone. So you all saw how many positions I held while I was here at Montgomery County. And, I was getting promoted. I have served on the executive board for the Virginia Association of Zoning Officials since 2001. I'm currently the president for that association and have held different roles along the way. I've had coworkers telling me how great I am. I have people that will come and talk to me. I still have citizens in terms of developers and citizens and people that work out in the field, contractors. They will still call this office and try to speak directly to me because I earned their trust. They believed I could always give them the right answer. So, I'm building all this confidence over my career. I have my grandmother, who I'm not ashamed to say I'm her baby. That's what she tells everyone. She's my baby. But I started hearing her saying, oh, she's working for the county and she's done this and she went back to school and she did this. And so I'm hearing all this praise and this pride, and my head is getting very large, right? And so I have all this confidence. I've got all this pride and things going on, which is not a bad thing. It's good. I've got all these things going, but then what happens? So I'm living with all this confidence, and all I want to be is a planning and zoning administrator, right? Like that's it. That's the top. And then I become planning director, even just interim. It started happening. Can I really do this? This isn't really where I was supposed to go. Am I able? And so then I start saying to myself, well, most planning directors have master's degrees. I only have a bachelor's degree. And remember my story, like to me, I started telling myself, and is it really a planning degree? Because, they got rid of that concentration. And so then I'm just like reading books. So do I really have a planning degree? And so then that turns into you're not even qualified to be a planning director. Why did they even put you in the interim spot, much less be considering you for a director position? And then it's what if I let my staff down? What if I mess up? What if I say something in front of the board I'm not supposed to say? And then that turned into they think I just got here because people like me. They think I just got here because the citizens like me, or because this board member likes me, or because the now county administrator has always been one of my biggest allies that I could go to even when she wasn't my own boss. She was someone I would go to if I was having issues with the boss I did currently have. Or if I had a question, I was like, I don't know how to handle this. Like, she was that person I went to, and now she's county administrator. They think that's the only reason I got this position. I told myself that when I first became planning director. So I'm already telling myself that, not even really realizing it, and I'm just going through the day. And then the bottom dropped. And the bottom dropped, and I made a mistake. And it's a mistake that I wouldn't have even made as planning and zoning administrator or even development review planner. Like, I was reviewing a plat and I missed something. And that something was not a little something, it was a big something. And it wound up having to cost my staff, in my opinion, because I had to pull money out of my budget to negotiate with a developer to fix the issue, to redo a plat, to negotiate. And that was all things that I couldn't do either. So not only did I make a mistake, I made a mistake that cost money, right? So I felt like I'm taking that away from my staff. And I made a mistake that county administration had to solve. So the people whose lives I'm supposed to make easier, I just made harder. And it was literally my dropping point, to the point that I sat in one of our directors' meetings that we have every Wednesday. It's all the directors with county administration. And we have a tradition. We play a song before we start the meeting. We each take turns. We get to pick a song. We get to pick a question that's an icebreaker question. And then we pick a quote for the end of the meeting. And the county administrator knew I was struggling. It was her week. She had picked a song, and shoo, man, it was the wrong week. And I may or may not have cried through most of that song in front of the rest of the directors. And so then I had to explain, look, I messed up. And I want to start by saying everyone was super supportive. No one told me you failed. They said, yeah, you made a mistake, but it's okay. No one criticized me for that. I criticized myself and I held it in. And part of that goes back to the why didn't you? You should have. Those type of voices started playing again in my head. So I had to destroy that mask, right? I have this mask. I'm thinking imposter syndrome. I'm sitting with my assistant planning director. Most of you know him, Justin Sanders. He is sitting in my office and I'm telling him, I don't think I'm cut out to do this. And he looked at me and he said, you've got to stop. You're letting your imposter syndrome show and you've got to quit that. And I sat there for a minute and then I said, what's imposter syndrome? And then he starts talking to me and I'm like, oh, huh. And so then he started calling me out all the time. I would say something, he would go, that's your imposter syndrome. And so then I started therapy. And it was hard. So what I had to do, I had to acknowledge my issue. I then went to county administration and said, hey, I'm struggling with this. And they said, I don't know why you're so freaked out about this. It's not a big deal. I got it, but it's a big deal to me. I started therapy. And through therapy, I was able to start to replace or resist those negative thoughts. Now, when I say that I was able to start that, that doesn't mean I do it all the time. So when I opened this presentation at conference, the first thing I said to the people sitting in front of me, and I'm kind of glad that I can't see your all's faces. The first thing I said to the people in front of me, and Kearra laughed, was, the one thing we've talked about is we're having imposter syndrome over giving a presentation on imposter syndrome. She and I had both talked about this. I had never presented at an APA Virginia conference before. It's honestly it's probably the biggest presentation I've ever done. And why I chose to do one that makes me be so vulnerable is just another issue. But that's how I opened our session was, I am having imposter syndrome from giving a presentation on imposter syndrome. So it's still there. It still comes back. And what I have to do is I just have to start to talk myself back through it. The other thing I have to do is I have to quit comparing my journey. So a lot of what I do is I say, okay, even with my assistant planning director, Justin, he went to Virginia Tech. He has an urban planning degree. He now has his AICP. He has done these things. And so there are times when I say, oh my God, he's more qualified to be planning director than I am. He would disagree with that. And I'm glad he's not in my office because he would be saying, stop your imposter syndrome right now. But you have to quit comparing yourself to those journeys. No one's journey is the same. And just because your journey is different doesn't mean you don't deserve to be where you're at. I'm going to say that again. Just because your journey isn't the same, it doesn't mean you don't deserve to be where you're at. I have to tell myself every day, I earned my place to be here. I worked hard. I have held every position in the department that I manage, except for GIS, because I don't do mapping. But I've held every position. So everyone has been mine. But yet there are still times when I think I don't deserve to be here. Even though I still have those citizens coming in and asking for me, and then some of them getting upset because I'm in some meeting somewhere, I still don't always think that I'm supposed to be here. The other thing that I have to realize is just because I'm a director does not mean that I'm not going to make mistakes. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to fail. One of the quotes that I like the most, and it's not one that's on the screen, but it's, you will never succeed without failure. You have to have failure to succeed. That's the only way you get somewhere. So it's okay if you make a mistake. What's not okay is if you make a mistake and then you don't own it, or you excuse it, or you try to put it off on someone else. You have to own that mistake. You have to earn from it. And then you have to create your success from it. And that's how you do that. So I still attend therapy routinely. I still have to go through things. I still have to own that in order to be successful. So now here I am. I'm a planning director. This is a horrible picture. It's horrible for me to look at now. So, and the reason I say that is I've also been on a weight loss journey. So like I see this and I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how big I looked, but still have a few pounds to go, but I'm getting there. So now my job is to continue to grow that confidence. It's also to invest that confidence into my staff and help them grow. I still routinely get told that I'm having the imposter syndrome. I still routinely get reminded to do things. And, I've even been asked before, have you been to therapy lately? And I'm like, yes, I just went last week. And so then I have to pick up the phone and make another phone call. But there we are. So that's kind of my story. I think we're going to get into Kearra's as soon as I wrap this up. But here's the one thing that I have learned, and these are my truths. So therapy isn't just seasonal. Like I said, I'm still doing it. You can't just go to therapy, get fixed, and leave. And for years, I thought you could. I mean, I can tell you, I've been to therapy before over several different things, and I thought I could just go, be fixed, and be done. I've learned now that that's not the case. I don't have to be perfect. I am going to make mistakes. Here's the other thing. I don't have to know every answer. Just because I'm the planning director does not mean that I have to know everything. So my latest quote has been, you know what? I don't need to know that. I just need staff that does. That's been my answer. I am successful. I am successful in my own way because I am happy in the job that I have. I do get to empower others, and I can be a great leader. I hear that from my staff all the time, even though I don't always feel it. I can do the hard things. And you know what? There's a lot to learn. And one of my favorite things to do in the world is learn. My husband used to say that my job should be a career student because I'm always wanting to do things and take weird classes and stuff. But there's a lot. So Rachel Hollis, if you haven't read her books or watched any of her podcasts, she puts a real funny spin onto things. But it does turn out that the most beautiful things in my life were never on my to-do list. Because I would not give up my planning director job for anything right now. I love it. I love coming to work every day. And that in its own is a success when you like to do that. But like I told you before, that was not on my to-do list. It was nowhere on my bingo card or radar. But here I am, and hopefully I will continue to be here for a few more years. I do have retirement, probably 6 to 7, but we've got to get through that. So that was my story. If anything that I said to you related, I want you to drop it in the chat because while Kearra's going through hers, I'm going to be in there reading. And I want you, and then at the end, like I said, we're going to come back and get some information from you guys. So you can share with us. I'm going to end and stop sharing so Kearra can take over.
All right. Hello, everyone again. Let me get my slides up here. Okay. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't showing you guys my multiple spreadsheets. It's always a lot going on. Okay. Let me move this. Okay. Here we go. Sorry, let me go through. Okay. So you all got to hear Bree's story. I wanted to open with something that actually happened last week, and it of course made me question my imposter syndrome again. We're in this huge meeting. We're talking about severe weather, which is always the vein of my existence. And I had an idea, and I was like, you know what? Let me use this opportunity to stop being scared and let me say something. I said the thing. It was met by no, no, that's a terrible idea. I kid you all not, I wanted to cry. Like I was sitting in the meeting, I could feel my eyes like tearing up, and then I was like, you know what? Like I'm not gonna speak anymore. And I got, mind you, I got shot down by 2 people. So I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this just happened. Like the one the one time I tried to speak up and kind of move past my imposter syndrome, I got shot down very hard. Um, so, it happens day to day. And one thing that Brea said that I definitely follow is therapy. Therapy has been my best friend since I was about 18 years old. I still have the same therapist. If she ever leaves me, I don't know what I'm going to do at this point, but I she has been so helpful in helping me, and we talked about it and we found some ways. So the thing that she suggested I do in this moment is kind of, talk it out, talk with my manager about it. And that's exactly what I plan to do because I'm like, I don't want it to get to a point where I'm like, I have all these great ideas and I feel scared to speak up. And I'm sure that many of you have been in that same boat and just know it does get better. I'm we're working through it and we're all going to find ways together to move past that. I just wanted to share that. So I'm kind of glad we're doing this again also because it's always great to hear everybody's advice and, just the things that everybody else goes through because it's really helpful. But let's face it, imposter syndrome, it makes you want to run and hide. Like, especially me last week, I wanted to run out of that conference room, go down back to my desk and just cry it out. But I was like, you know what? We're going to stay here. We're going to own this and it's going to be okay. Wanted to ask everybody in the chat, how does imposter syndrome make you feel? For me, it makes me feel small. And another thing that Brea said, unqualified, just many of the things. Feel free to drop them all in the chat. I would love to hear what you all have to say about this. I'm sure you all can relate. It's been
And I'll
great.
hop on and say no one's dropping anything in the chat. So guys, tell us because remember, this is You guys are going to help us as much as we're going to help you.
Yes.
That's what we learned last time.
I will say I'm a mess, but I always say we're a mess. I'm a mess in progress. So I'm always looking for advice as well, especially since I'm a lot younger in my career. And I'll just put it like this. I have been in my current role for a little less than a year now, and I've been working professionally for a little under 5 years. So I still have a lot to learn. Many of my coworkers have been at Metro for many, many years. And so it has definitely been quite the journey trying to figure out how things work, how I can navigate through different situations, how I can, really tune into what my coworkers are saying so that I, know what's going on. So it's definitely been quite the challenge. But right now we're going to play a little game. So these are three things that have happened or may not have happened to me. And I want you all to guess which one is the lie. All right, first one. My boss at the time asked another colleague if I was qualified enough to help with the project. This in turn made me feel inadequate and doubt my skills. This said skill is something that I had done in my internship, so I definitely knew that I could do it. But just hearing that, it kind of made me question, like, is this something I really should be doing? Like, am I going to mess this up? Like, oh my goodness. Next one. My fiance and I love Pokemon, so just wanted to put this in here. Love Charmander. But second one, I continued to push myself by taking more shifts to prove that I was working hard and doing my job well. All right. And last but not least, my recent promotion brought a lot of self-doubt and fear that I would not be able to perform my job up to the standards needed. Because as some of you may know, Metro is a very go, go, go type of place. And so it can be a little scary sometimes and especially now since I have to make some decisions, it's terrifying. But we're going to work through it and we're going to continue to. So I want you all to drop in the chat which one you think is the lie. You can just put one, two, or three. You don't have to write it out. I'll give you guys a couple moments to do that. And I'll check in the chat as well.
So far, 2 is winning.
You guys are good at this.
Oh,
We
there's
got
a
a
3.
got a three.
Few ones. I think 2 is going to win out.
I think so too. And for those of you did anybody else want to comment? Here, I'll give you guys a couple more seconds. Okay, we're getting some ones.
It's like, wait, don't tell me.
All right. The correct answer is number two. That one was. I do take extra shifts, but that's only because I'm getting married and it is very expensive, as many of you may know. But the first one, that one was true, and the third one is very true, and I'm still currently working through it. But at the end, I'll give you guys some of the tips that I use that help me out a little bit, and also therapy is also been a huge help for me. Oops, sorry, one second. There we go. All right, so here are some tips that
Yeah.
I personally. Oh,
Sorry to interrupt. I just see one of our attendees has their hand up.
oh yeah.
Um, Haley, if you could just confirm, Haley Mahoney, if confirm that this is just not an accidental click. If you would prefer to say something, feel free to put that in the chat. It's just affirmative, and then I will take you off mute. Oh, it looks like it might have been an accident because the hand went down. Okay, just no problem at all. And again, folks, happy to use this feature if you'd prefer to share your story or ask questions that way as well. Okay, handing it back over to you, Kearra.
Thanks, Jillian. And yes, please, we would love to hear from you. So here are some things that I currently use that help. And, this is a short list, but there are many other things that can work too. And we're going to definitely be reaching out to you all for that in just a few moments. But my biggest thing, and especially now in this new job, is give yourself grace. It's impossible to know everything. Even though feels like my coworker, he's very good. He seems like he does know everything, but I realized too, I'm like, I'm still new to this. Like, I'm still new to the profession as a whole. It is okay that I don't know everything, and it is okay to ask for help. And that is exactly what I do. It's been great. And I have to tell myself that a lot, but it has been a really huge help for me, just remembering like, this is it's going to be all right. This second one also came about from someone who's a near and dear friend of mine. After I was appointed to be the VP of Inclusion for APAVA, I was told this, you were picked for this job because we believe that you're capable of doing it. And similar to my promotion recently, I try to remember that too. Like, you were picked for the job, and it's because somebody else believed in you, and you should also believe in you too, that you can do this, that you can do this job. Not every day will be easy, but you all can do it, and it's going to be good. Embrace compliments. I'm horrible at this. Every time I hear a compliment, I kind of want to run. not because not because it's bad, but I feel weird about it. But I also try to embrace those things and remember that, they're not just someone's not just saying that to you. They really truly do mean that. And it really does mean a lot. And especially getting compliments at work, I feel like it's a huge morale booster, and it definitely helps. Um, Keep an achievement journal. I put this one on here, and I'm planning on starting this. I think it's a good thing because you can look back at all the wonderful things that you have accomplished. Because sometimes, when we get stressed, we forget about those things. I know I do. When I get stressed, I'm like, oh gosh, like everything feels like it's on fire. But like, just taking a moment to just look at all the things that you've accomplished and writing them down is it's going to be a huge help. And I'm going to tell you guys when I eventually start doing that as well. Um, and then next one, remember the journey that you took to get here. And as Brea said earlier, everyone's journey is different. My journey is different from probably many of yours. And, you know, everybody is in different places, and that is okay. And it was hard. Like, I remember in grad school, I remember like getting through that, and I was like, I still can't believe I did all of that. Like, that was that was crazy. But just remembering like all that hard work, it really does help. And for all of you, I hope that you remember that you have worked so hard to get to where you are, and you're doing amazing, and you're killing it. And then last one is one that I also struggle with is be kind to yourself. I don't know if any of you have this app, but I just got this app called Finch. It's like this cute little bird that goes on adventures, and you can buy it clothes and buy it like furniture. Mine's is Waffle. But it's been helpful because it reminds me to be kind to myself, give myself positive affirmations, and I highly recommend that to all of you as well. It's helpful for me, sometimes being like, you're doing great. You're doing amazing. It's okay that you don't know this thing. You will know for next time. And, just, continue to learn. So those are a few of my tips that I use that certainly do help. And I hope that these can help you all as well. And I really appreciate you all for letting me tell you my story. And now, we would love to hear from all of you. We'd love to hear some tips that you may use, some things that you may struggle with. Just we'd love to open the floor to hear from all of you because that, as Bree said, that also it helps. It really does. We got a lot of good feedback.
Because we'll tell you what the positive is. Not seeing anything else, Jillian.
Alrighty. Well,
Thank you guys.
thank you so much. I'm so glad that so many folks were willing to share their story, and
Yes.
their tidbits that have helped them
Yes.
over the years. Thank you, Kearra and Brea, for a wonderful presentation and for your vulnerability. So many thank yous and appreciations have been dropped in the chat. So maybe you guys will have to, I'll send our presenters this chat and they can put that in their happy journal or happy folder.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Um, but it's such an important topic, and I'm really glad that we were able to do it both in Danville and online. So thank you very much. And keep your eyes posted on your inbox. We'll be sharing the slide decks and the recording minus the judgment-free share time portion on our chapter's YouTube page. And so that follow-up correspondence will also include the link to that. And I know that our presenters are happy to be a resource. If you have any questions or if you would like to carry this conversation further. And for those of you who are keeping your eyes out for upcoming webinars in the APA Virginia series, there was that reschedule this month, so I'm just letting you know that that resilience planning with our friends over at EDF has been rescheduled to the November slot. So that will be in a couple months' time. But otherwise, stay just stay up to date on our chapter page and through our newsletters that will go out via email. But thank you
One
everyone
more
for
thing,
being here.
Jillian. Sorry.
Absolutely. No, go
Um,
ahead.
I forgot at conference, I told everyone, so I do have a workbook worksheet type thing. And I'm willing to send anyone a link to that. It is online, it is free. I found it as a resource. It does kind of help. So anyone that wants that, I think Jillian said she's going to share our emails. Anyone that wants that, just shoot me an email. You can also find me on LinkedIn and send me a message there, and I will send you a link to that workbook. I've also had several people after conference reach out, and I said, "Hey, I'm willing if someone wants to, if you guys want to get like a group chat or something together somewhere, and so we can all
Yeah.
vent and help each other through it. I'm willing to do that too. So, just let me know and reach out. Sorry.
Don't apologize. Thank you very much for that. Um, Alrighty, well, if there are no other comments, I will go ahead and close the webinar. But again, thank you everyone for being a part of this and enjoy the rest of your afternoons. Thank you.